A federal court rejected the request by voting rights groups to reconsider a ruling that upheld the constitutionality of the Florida Congressional redistricting map. In March, the three-judge panel ruled that the plaintiffs had not met a key test of showing that the legislature acted with racial motivation. The case stemmed from a redistricting plan that Governor Ron DeSantis pushed through the legislature, which focused on overhauling North Florida's Congressional District 5. Florida State Representative Michele Rayner joins us now from Pittsburgh. First of all, it's clear the racial plan was to get rid of a black district. That's kind of clear.
Yes, Roland, it's so good to be with you. I was a member of the legislature when this happened. I was on the House floor watching in disbelief, and I want to actually quote from the opinion. The opinion says that even though DeSantis acted with some unlawful discriminatory motive, we can sit that right there, in creating the congressional map, that does not mean the Florida legislature shared that motive in passing and adopting it. As a Black woman member of the Florida legislature, I can unequivocally tell you that the white Republicans, the supermajority Republicans, did share that motive in making sure that Black voices were diluted and making sure that this was discriminatory on its face and in practice.
So when you see this Florida appeals court, you got to say, what the hell were y'all paying attention to?
Correct, because literally, and I want to kind of, if I can, I want to walk us back to how we even got here. As you probably well know, it is unprecedented for a governor to get involved in the redistricting process. The redistricting process is a process that lies with the legislature. It lies with the Florida House. It lies with the Senate. They have a map. We have a map in the House. We come together and we pass a map. And so when the governor got involved, it literally was incredible because no one understood what was really happening because it had never happened before. So Ronald DeSantis, because I don't really call him governor, got into this process. And you have to remember at the time, this is when Florida was leading with a slate of hateful bills that were diluting the history of Black people, that was diluting the Black vote. And so this was just another part of this insidious, pernicious, hateful, whatever adjective you want to add, plan to make sure that Black voices were not represented. And it literally jumped out of every hearing that we had about this plan, floor arguments. So I don't know what they were listening to. I do know that some folks may have been appointed by certain people with certain letters behind their names that are not D's. And so maybe that is what they are leaning into, but I can unequivocally tell you that this map was done literally to make sure that Black people were not represented in the state of Florida.
What's the plan? Any plan to appeal?
I don't know if the voting rights groups are going to appeal. I have friends who are the EDs, so I can kind of say with certainty that I believe that they are meeting today, that they will consider a legal way forward. Most certainly, this was disappointing because we know that the law is on our side. And the fact that this appeals court did not interpret the law correctly is a problem. Roland, you and I both know the law is very clear when it comes to gerrymandering and diluting Black voices. And as a civil rights attorney, I have a problem with this. And I think that on its face, but also the legislative intent was very clear.
But this is also why I try to explain to people why you got to vote in the presidential election, why you got to vote in the U.S. Senate, because that's who approves federal judges. And so when you have these conservative federal judges, these are likely the rulings that they are going to make.
100%. And even as your previous guests were speaking about, Florida is ground zero, and our mutual good friend, Nadine Smith, also talked about, she and I were on a panel this weekend. We talked about how Florida really has been the testing ground for these really just hateful slate and cadre of bills, how we can see the Black vote is being chipped at everywhere we go in the state of Florida, and that how it has literally spread like wildfire. And my concern is that there's a lack of urgency by people, and there's a lack of urgency by folks, even in leadership, that we have to make sure that our people are understanding what's at stake in this election.
Absolutely. Well, keep the fight up in Florida, and I'm happy to see that y'all have got folks running in every district there.
Listen, run it up.
Because you can't win if you don't run.
That whole part. Say that louder for the people in the back, please. Please say that louder.
Trust me, and it's happening in so many other places as well. So there you go. All right, we appreciate it. Thanks a bunch. All right, keep it up.
Somebody's killing poor people, and it's going on.
When COVID happened, poor people were dying at a rate already of 800 people a day. Before COVID, if you went to a funeral every single day, it would take you 600 years to attend all the funerals of the people who will die from the ravages of policy violence, poverty, and low wages in America in just 1 year. It would take you 2 years and 19 days to go to all of the funerals of the people that will die today, and oftentimes silence. Nobody talks about this political genocide, but we are determined today to remember their death and be a resurrection of voting power and voice power like never before.
Economic justice and saving this democracy are deeply connected. We, as a nation, must listen to the demands of the poor, who are pushing and will continue to push political candidates and elected leaders to lift from the bottom so that everybody can rise.
Take back the money. Take back the money. Take back the money. Take back the money.
We are the poor, the marginalized, and the underpaid. And we are taking one step forward to say that everybody has a right to live.
Poverty is not the fault of those who are impoverished. It is caused by those who make the policy.
There are over 135 million poor and low-wage, low-income people in this nation.
The biggest block of potential voters by far is low-income, low-wage voters.
I can't afford medicine. Sometimes I have to skip because of the cost.
The farm worker community is tired of the violence imposed upon us by greed, exclusion, and denial of basic human rights.
Those folk that represented by that casket, poor and low-wage workers who are the most moral people in this country because they go to work every day believing, even though going to work is hazardous to their health.
I'm tired of working 70 to 80 hours a week and still not have money for the necessity of bills. I'm tired of getting sick and not being able to go see the doctor. Having to make a choice to pay between rent or the light bill or food or clothes.
You cannot claim to care about families and a culture of life and then do everything in your power to rob people of equal access to resources and to force them to live in poverty.
Leadership of both parties have waged war on poor people and low-wage workers.
And this government has treated people experiencing poverty, including their military families, with disdainful, deliberate, malicious neglect.
So the truth is that my son died from poverty.
We refuse to accept poverty as the fourth leading cause of death.
The fourth leading cause of death in this, the richest country in the world.
We march today for our children and the generations to come.
And we need to do it with the loudest voices possible, the biggest actions possible.
We will voice our demands and register our vote.
When we stand up and when we stand together, things change.
There is the electorate that is, and then there is the electorate that should be.
34 million eligible poor and low-income voters did not vote in 2016. If just 20% of those voters in swing states were mobilized around an agenda, they could change the political outcome of every election. So we're launching the most massive voter mobilization and turnout campaign in history of poor and low-wage voters, allies, and religious leaders.
People are dying, but we know It doesn't have to be this way. And so we are calling on everyone to join us in this Poor People's Campaign, a national call for more revival.
We are here, we will be seen, we will be heard, and our power will be felt. We don't need to be an insurrection. We are a resurrection that will be felt across this country. Are you ready? 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 We are a resurrection, and we are ready.